Hey everyone, this is Nick Rego.
This is Hafeez.
And we are here to talk to you today about Devil May Cry, the latest installment from Capcom and Ninja Theory. Now, Taimoor, you and I are the only ones, sadly, in the IGN Middle East offices who actually know anything about the DMC franchise and who are actually fans of it. So tell me, what is it about the DMC series that you love so much?
Well, primarily it's the gameplay. It's fast, it's very fluid. Most of the time it's not just about, like flashy moves. Well, it's about flashy moves at the end of the day, but
it is done.
It's about how you combine all the combos and then how you execute them and then how that's represented on screen. Mm-hmm. The story is kind of trashy, but it's good in a campy sort of way that it's good for that afternoon kind of filler thing. But what I love about is the character himself, like his cockiness and like whenever he's facing not just like random enemies but bosses as well.
Yeah. The
way he talks to them, the way he's challenging them, and then the kind of like the frustration that you unleash on those bosses with the moves and everything.
Yeah.
So it's traditionally that's what DMC is from.
For me, it's like you said, Dante. I think is what holds the franchise together. Yes, there are a lot of characters that have come a long way in the other DMC games, but I think especially in this one there has been a lot of changes with Dante, not only in his looks but also the way he behaves and the way he plays around with the various weapons and things like that. So I think it's the character himself. Like I said, Dante is what I think pulls people towards the DMC franchise, and I think people won't be disappointed in this installment as well. So enough of staring at the start screen, let's get into the game. Now, one of the things that I love about the game, even before we've started, is this kind of loading sequence you have in between some of the missions. So here you can see Dante completely, annihilating an enemy with his various combos. And as you gain new weapons in the game, the loading screens will change depending on what weapons you've got as well.
You're not able to do these moves yourself, are you? I mean, this is just sort of like a playback of
This is the playback. I remember in DMC 3 or 4, you could press the square button or something and you could slash the now loading section.
I think it was the 4, yeah.
You could get bullet holes in it as well. So, yeah, sadly it's just an animation you're watching, but it's still a quite cool thing to watch. So one of the cool things about this Devil May Cry is that it's set in Limbo. Now, what is Limbo? Well, as you can see now, you've got Dante running through this particular level. Everything looks perfectly normal. But if you actually go into Limbo at one point in level, this is what it looks like. Now, as you can see, the laws of physics no longer apply. Objects are flying everywhere. The environment is very gritty. Things are very dark. So Limbo is really the area between heaven and the real world. So a large portion of the game is set exactly in this kind of environment.
Did they call it Limbo specifically, or is this like
well, throughout the game, that's what it's referenced to. So the characters will repeatedly tell Dante he needs to go into Limbo to confront a particular demon. So they address it directly as Limbo.
And this sort of takes place in between major story missions, or?
Well, pretty much at the beginning of each level, you have a bit of a cutscene, which then takes you into Limbo, and then the actual game begins. So I think about 90% of your gameplay is actually based in Limbo. And one of the cool things here you see, like I said, you can jump around platforms that are flying all over the place. You can pull objects towards you. You can manipulate parts of the environment to basically help you get along obstacles, in this case a large gap. So it's just absolutely fantastic way to get on the level.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's quite a, wouldn't say unique necessarily, but quite an interesting twist on platforming elements, especially for people like me.
Yeah, and I love these I love these little flying sequences as well. So it kind of mixes it up a bit, so you don't feel like all you're doing is double jumping and pulling things towards you.
Definitely a lot of it, but I mean, even pulling things towards you gives you a sense of control rather than like relying on the mercy of what the developers have laid out and just perfectly timing it.
And of course, it wouldn't be a DMC game without ambushes from demons like so. So it's so fluid. There's no kind of pause in the gameplay or anything like that. You literally just jump in, and the demons pop up from nowhere, and they just attack you. It's really, really good.
Notice how the camera just basically sort of swings in. I mean, it's not like panning out to show you, oh my god, there are hundreds of enemies just on you right now. It's just like the camera's following you. Suddenly these guys pop out, and then it's kind of like changing them in a very dynamic angle.
Yeah.
So as you're swinging this.
Exactly, and if you zoom in towards a particular enemy, if you're going one-on-one with them, the camera focuses on that particular enemy. Exactly. So I think the camera here is definitely improved from previous DMC games. I know that I had an issue with DMC 3 where you'd be playing, and if you go along a ledge, the camera would just snap to a particular angle, and then you could just fall off that ledge.
You can definitely see, I mean, these are some of the basic but key sort of improvements you would see from a Western developer.
Exactly.
Compared to how the previous DMC games were made.
So you've got more flying sequences here, and again, very, very cool diving through it. And here's one of my favorite parts, of course, more demons. You can see this particular demon is glowing red.
This is not a boss fight.
It's not a boss fight. It's not a boss fight, but he still looks like a pretty tough demon. But he can only be defeated by these kind of weapons, which are obviously red because of your demonic power. So I mean, just look at the way Dante goes with this guy. Like slashes, combos, just absolute annihilation.
I like how the environment is kind of visually affected as well, depending on the moves that you make.
You get like cracks in the floor if you swing your axe. You get sparks flying around if your bullets hit the environment. So I think Ninja Theory have done a really good job with the environment as well as the enemies, so that everything dynamically reacts to whatever Dante is doing.
It's definitely, I mean, they've definitely captured the essence of what DMC is, because I mean the whole moving along the environment, combating enemies, that bizarre cutscene, it's still pretty fluid.
So we're going to fast forward a little bit into this little fight to go to one of the more tougher enemies we have here. And this guy is heavily armored, and you can see it's kind of a trick to defeat him. So you've got to sneak up behind the back, pull him down, and then just slice the crap out of him. And this is just another example of how Ninja Theory are in keeping with the other DMC games. So you've got to string together combos in order to bring down these bigger enemies. It's not just about standing from far away and trying to shoot him with your pistols.
I noticed this guy doesn't have any health bar, but bosses, they do have.
Yeah. All of the bosses will have a health bar at the bottom of the screen, like we've seen in other DMC games. This guy's a bit of a tough nut to crack. He's got a number of attacks on his own. He's got heavy armor, so it really is about sneaking up behind him when he's done a charge or an attack, and really just cutting at him as soon as you can. Now, it wouldn't be a Devil May Cry game without awesome weapons and awesome upgrades. So let's have a look at how the upgrade system works in this version of Devil May Cry. Now, throughout the level, you will see divinity statues, which you can spend upgrade tokens and your red orbs to buy upgrades and items. So in the items, you have things like vital stars, devil trigger stars, gold orbs, which you can use for resurrection, and so on and so forth, which are obviously essential to any part of the game. And in the upgrades menu, you can upgrade your basic abilities, your weapons, your pistols, so on and so forth. And you can go through a long list of upgrades. And the best part is, when you see an upgrade you like, not only do you get a preview on the right-hand side, but if you hit triangle, you can actually try out that upgrade yourself. So if you see an upgrade you like and you want to see how it would feel in your regular comment, you can try it before actually spending it, which is pretty awesome.
Can you try out upgrades if you haven't unlocked it?
No, it's only for those that you've unlocked.
Okay.
Which is a bit of a bust, but I mean, I think that's a good way.
Can you see the visual at least?
You can see the visuals, yes. Oh no, wait, actually no. For unlocked items, you can see a visual and you can try it. For locked ones, they just remain grayed out.
So there's no point in holding out for, like, let's say, better.
Exactly. You need to unlock the tier before that before you can go on to the next powerful iteration. So we're going to fast forward into level number 10 of the game, which is bad news. So I'm going to try and keep this as spoiler-free as possible. Now, the first thing you see is, yes, it is upside down. One of the many joys of being in Limbo. Everything is not what it's supposed to be. So in this particular level, you're trying to get to this tower here, and obviously because you're upside down, the controls are inverted, which makes things even more confusing. So kudos to Ninja Theory for completely screwing with us.
Oh, don't tell me you're gonna fight enemies on the way.
I'm hoping not. No, you're just going to avoid this big death ray that's going to be firing at you.
Maybe those are spoilers. How do you avoid them?
You don't. You just kind of fall and hope that you don't die.
Fun time.
More platforming here, as you can see. Oh, and there's it's like the Lord of the Rings Eye of Sauron kind of thing, if you get what I mean. So you're going to try and platform your way while this thing is chopping and hacking away at the platforms suspended in the air. It's a very fast-paced action.
Yeah, I like the fact that it's sort of a break from regular, just like jumping along, moving platform puzzle pieces.
Yeah. And I have to confess, I died a couple of times here. I mean, it looks quite easy because this is probably about the 5 millionth time I've played this part of the level, but it does get quite tricky.
It's interesting to see that even if you do that between platforming levels, the game will literally start like maybe one jump before.
Exactly, yeah. It doesn't make you go all the way to the start of the level. So I think for people who are even new to Devil May Cry, it's a bit forgiving that way.
Wow, that looked disturbingly real.
So you're actually in this level. You're actually in a news anchor sequence. So it's so out there. It's just so random, but I love it. Like
this reminds me of Wipeout.
Exactly, yeah. Who thinks about stuff like this? So again, a big shout out to Ninja Theory for thinking up something like this. You're basically in a live newscast, and you're trying to make your way into the center of the tower. It's pretty awesome. So we're going to have a quick look at a fight sequence that I've got. I'm basically surrounded by demons, and I'm going to show you guys some of the smooth combos you can pull off in DMC.
Like one thing I wanted to ask you was that I noticed that at the bottom left side we've got like these 3 icons that show the 3 weapons that he has. I mean, I know that you can choose from all 3 weapons, but does that change your fighting stance as well? I mean, from Trickster, like all the stuff that you had to be in 3.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good question, because I'm surprised that Ninja Theory have actually left out that portion of Devil May Cry in their version of the game. So you no longer have to worry about being an expert in swords or a gunslinger or a royal guard or any of those other things that you had in DMC games. So really here, all it's about is getting the best type of combos with whatever weapons you have, regardless of how good or how novice you are at playing Devil May Cry. It is just that easy to string together your combos and just pull off some amazing moves.
I wanted to ask you another thing is the difficulty level in the game. Do they have like an easy automatic style that they have with DMC4 or with Bayonetta?
Well, with the default setting, which I'm currently playing on Demon Hunter, it's quite challenging, but it's not too brutal. You do have, obviously, Heaven and Hell. You have Hell and Hell and other more difficult DMC modes, which you saw in other versions of DMC. But I think the game has structured in such a way that even if you're a new player, you can get a really good combo score on the game. So now we're going to give you guys a bit of a teaser. This is the first boss fight that you will come across in the game from the very first level. It's Dante's first experience here in Limbo, and he's trying to get to a tear in Limbo so he can return to the regular world. And as you can see silhouettes of people running. Those are actually people in the real world who are kind of being dragged into Limbo along with Dante.
I wonder if they're experiencing this destruction as well. Oh, but they're part of the Limbo as well.
Exactly. So you'll see later on that what's happening here in Limbo is actually also happening in the real world.
Wow, that was not a spoiler.
And okay, there we go. That's our first boss. He's a bit of a bad boy.
Freaky clown. Good.
Yeah. Well, clowns are scary as a general rule. So as you can see, nothing like a bit of slashing to wake him up.
Oh, so it's got like bone sticking out of him.
He's got all kinds of
little bit of flesh.
Yeah, he's got all kinds of nasty stuff going on. He's got his rib cage inside out and all kinds of weird things happening there. And let's see if we can build up a strong enough combo with him. There we go. Let's see if I can bring up my combo meter.
Oh dang.
There we go. Okay, an R kick, not too bad. Let's see if we can get to triple S. Okay, Savage. So it's so easy to build up combos here if you just cycle through your different weapons when you're fighting either a boss or a regular.
Because you're cycling through the weapons, not cycling through moves.
Exactly. So I'm switching between my swords to the scythe to my gauntlet, and my pistol. So if you keep switching between weapons, you actually get a higher ranking. So I highly recommend, like, there is a training segment which you can go in and try the different weapons, so you can master some of the basic combos.
It looked very seamless when you switching.
It is.
Yeah,
It's literally holding down either the L2 or the R2 buttons to bring up either your light or your demon weapons. So we brought our friend down from his perch.
Can you pull bosses towards you like you can?
Sadly, you can't. On some other bosses you can, but most of the time you can only pull objects towards you or other smaller enemies. So we're going to try and dodge.
Again, another good example of how the environment keeps on shifting.
Exactly. So now I have no idea where I am, can't see anything, but it's a gigantic blade that I'm trying to shoot and failing miserably. There we go. Let's try that again.
But notice that, I mean, the whole game is kind of, it feels sort of goth, but not like the previous Devil May Cry games.
Yeah, I mean, the way they've done it is you'll notice for some segments when you're doing boss fights, the music is very heavy metal, very rock, very dark and very loud, but that isn't the same throughout the whole game. So it's only during particular segments of the game that the music goes to the kind of heavy metal vibe that we've seen in the DMC series before.
Speaking of which, I love the fact that it's not got death metal over here in every segment. I mean, that's a personal choice, but I firmly believe that sort of...
well, I think that's what makes the DMC series so lovable. It's the music and the effects. And just.
But this is not bad. Although, like you said, that when you're going between Limbo or some other like quieter stages, there's no music at all.
Yeah, it's just,
like nice
background.
Ambient,
yeah, it's just ambient music to just kind of build the atmosphere.
So one of the cool things about the previous DMC games was that I could be playing through a level and then there'd be like these weird statues around, breaking them, with different weapons would basically unlock the hidden stage.
Yeah.
So what sort of stuff are we talking about with the new DMC?
Well, in the new DMC, they've done away with the statues, and they've basically cleverly hidden keys in various sections of the level. So if you collect these keys, you then get to unlock particular doors. And when you unlock the door, you then reach that particular secret mission. So the secret missions can vary between just going from point A to point B, like you see in this particular sequence, or it can be something more brutal where you've got to defeat all the enemies in an area with one particular weapon. So it gets obviously tougher with as the game progresses. So initially you start with really easy secret missions, but as you go on, it gets harder and harder.
The keys themselves, I mean, do they shine like certain items did in the previous DMC games, or how do you know where to find them?
Well, you really just have to look high and low for them. Some of them are hidden behind doors that can only be broken by particular weapons. So I think in that way, they're referencing to the original DMC where you break statues with particular weapons. Here you would break doors with particular weapons.
So you definitely find the key after breaking things.
Yes, you can either find the key or you find like a health star or something or the other.
And notice a trophy break-in, so how are some of the trophies or the achievements, so to speak, in the game?
Well, there are a lot of achievements that are based around weapons. So when you kill X number of enemies with your scythe or your blade or with a pistol, so I think a lot of them are focused on the weapon itself. But then there are some really random ones, like if you fall a couple of times, or if you die and you don't resurrect, or if you resurrect, you get a trophy. So I think Ninja Theory have definitely put in a number of achievements for the trophy holders amongst us.
There have always been angels, there have always been demons.
So that wraps up our quick look at DMC. Taimoor, what do you think of the game from what you've seen so far?
Well, like one of the earliest issues that I had, and as did pretty much every DMC fan, was the character design. And I must say that initially he looked like sort of a cross between this new Star Wars guy, what's his name, Hayden Christensen, or whatever, that, and then...
You're going to get a lot of flack from Star Wars fans, I hope you know that.
I'm getting into it. Cross between him and then who's that hero in that Twilight series? You know, like that vampires look like all like emo forlorn kind of thing. But I must say that after playing the game, they've like done like proper updates to the character model himself.
Yeah.
He looks nothing like the old Dante.
Yep.
There's a very nice twink and nod in the game for that as well. But I must say that in terms of expressing his character, he doesn't sound cocky. Well, I mean, of course he's cocky, but you know, not overly so.
Yeah.
It's not overly.
I think they've hit that just the right balance between being
exactly.
an absolute bleep to being somebody who you can actually sit down and have dinner with. You know.
Well, I don't know about dinner, but yeah, sure. I mean, you can at least have a decent conversation with him.
For sure.
Because I mean, even as I was looking at the game, his dynamics with his brother have changed. The way he's interacting with Virgil, it's not coming from the same point of view as we saw in the previous Devil May Cry games. So in terms of pure storytelling, I'm really happy and very excited to see how it basically unravels, and the other twist about the whole the real world and the advertisement and that kind of controlling stuff, how that sort of affects and all that ties in.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Devil May Cry comes out on January 15th on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. For more news and updates on DMC, make sure you stay tuned to IGN.com.